Hello, welcome back to Teen Story Share. This week we're reading our very last section of The Returning by Christine Hinwood. If you missed all the other chapters, those will be linked down below. And next week we'll be starting a brand new book. The first light of day showed Corban Farmer walking about his yard. He kept bending down, picking up glass, Acton realized, and felt a strange unease. Farmer paused and stared up at the ridge at Acton. Anger crowded out any other feeling, and, carried by it, Acton climbed atop the post and yelled, "You killed my dog, Corban Farmer!" The man staggered, as if Acton's words had hit him bodily, then righted himself and walked out of sight behind the east wing of the farmhouse. Master Attling was early on the road. Acton watched him pushing his handcart around the bend and up the slope the road made on its way south past Farmer's holding. His little girl, Pin, skipped and leaped around and about him. When she saw Acton, she ran up to him, then stopped right before him and stared. "You did sleep here last night?" she asked. "I." "Why?" she demanded to know. Her dog came up to them then. Acton found a smile for him, but Master Attling only looked at him sadly. "Pin, leave that," for she was inspecting Jin. "Do you come?" He set his daughter in the handcart and walked on, without a word for Acton. Acton felt his eyes burn and was shamed that he could cry for himself but had not wept for Jin. When Da had not come back, when Cam Attling had ridden into the village with the spring, and they had all realized he was the only one coming home, Acton had gone to his house and had stayed curled on Da's bed until Isla Karos's ma'am had come and made him wash and eat and drink, and had set him to work in his own garden. All his, because ma'am was dead with his birth, and Da was never coming back. And though he had lain there on that bed feeling as if he were dying inside for wanting Da, he had not wept for him either. The road was uncommonly quiet under the punishing beat of the sun. Acton chased the narrow band of shade thrown down by the post in a circle. He found himself looking north to the little uplander camp on the levels by the river, a tent, maybe two. He could even see people, tiny with distance, crouching by a fire, uplanders fleeing their own war. There was something about how they sat, still and stubborn. "They'll not move," he said aloud. But for uplanders, Da would be alive. But for himself, ma'am would be. His thoughts tied his mind in knots. The sun pitched westward, and still no one came by. When steps did at last sound, Acton jumped nearly from his skin. It wasn't just a passer-by, it was a great tramping of feet. He looked, then scudded around the post. The whole of Kayforl was marching up the road toward Corban Farmer's holding. They crowded up behind and beside and before him. Their silence shouted at him. Finally, voice big, one of the men said, "Send him on his way with a beating, to make him mind that he did get too big for his breeks." Finlay Pacenot's aunt came right up to him. Her face was all red and tight. She slapped his face, whap, whap, left cheek, then right. "Look what you do bring us to, you and your selfish grieving, you good-for-naught. Corban is a good, respectable man." She was panting. She was crying. Acton stared at her, both hands up to his burning face. "You do bring down your Da's good name with you." Acton did not know he was going to push her until it was done. "Leave my Da out of this." He let his arms fall to his sides. She picked herself up, wiped her hands on her skirts, lifted her basket to her head, and stalked through the watching villagers. "Turn in his grave he would, your Da." Acton rounded on the man who'd spoken. "I'll get you for that when I am big enough." "What would you have? That we do send this to the new lord?" said Cam Attling. The tight ring of people loosed a little. "We do settle things our own way, with our own," the same man said. Everyone and no one looked at Cam with his long uplander mess of hair and the uplander words that fell from his tongue at times. He smiled a little. "He is our lord now." Finlay swung his crop in Cam's face so that it whined like the arrow that had killed Jim. "So says a traitor!" "Aye!" shouted someone, and someone else shoved Cam. Acton screamed over them. "Who of you did I ask here? This is mine! You can all get out of it!" For a moment, everyone was silent. Ah! It was Da Palfreyman. Something in his way of speaking spread a calm over Acton, over them all. "Like that, is it?" Bent and old as he was, he walked slowly around the inside of the circle, which gave a little, widening the space around Acton. "I think," he said, "we do need to get Farmer up here." No one threw Da Palfreyman's words back at him. "You," the headman pointed at Pharaoh, "fetch him up." Pharaoh ran down the drive and back up. More slowly, Corban Farmer took the slope up to them, holding his hat and slapping it against his thigh with each step, and each step was solid and even. Acton scrambled to his feet and put the post between them. "Boy," said Corban. "Boy?" His face wore the same look as when he had killed Jin, as when he had reeled under the blow of Acton's words. "Huh." He walked around the post to him. "Everyone knows you do not like to be in that house on your own. Come with me. We are both alone. We can learn one another. We can rub along, surely." He turned his hat around and around in his hands. "Made me think, you did, sitting up here day after day." Acton felt something happen in his head. It was the scream unraveling, and with it the lifting of a pressure, a weight. The easing of it had him bowing his head, rocking forward and back, crying into his cupped hands and all the village looking on. "Well," Da Palfreyman clasped Acton's shoulder, "it does bear thinking on." Someone else said, "For the sake of the goddess and us all, do we bury that dog?" "Where will you have her?" they were asking him. He shook his head. Words went back and forth among those gathered, too quiet for him to hear, until, "Bury her here, then. Farmer, do you fetch up a shovel." Acton sank down on the far side of the post, pulled his knees to his chest, and hugged them there. He did not, could not look, but there was no way of not hearing the shovel slice into the ground. "Wait," said Cam then. "The arrow, do you want it?" A dozen people at once said, "Of course he does not." "Do you?" Acton jerked his head, yes, but did not look up. Someone stepped up before him. All Acton could see were scuffed boot caps, then a fall of long hair and a sleeve hanging, and in his one hand the arrow. Cam laid it down. Acton caught at the empty sleeve. "My da?" Cam shrugged. "I do not remember." Acton thought, "He does," and said it, which made Cam start. "You did fight with him?" "Mm-hmm." Cam crouched down to Acton's level. "All of us Kayforliers. We did fight together." "You did lose your arm when he died?" "No, that happened at the end, right at the end." "So my da, he died early on in it?" "Not early on." "I never did know." He let go his hold on Cam's sleeve. "Not until you came back." Cam picked up the arrow and dug at the ground with it. It was strange, that. Coming back? Aye, alone. Strange. Cam's knees unbent, hair and arm and sleeve lifting out of Acton's sight. "Do you help me here?" said someone from behind Acton. "Aye, set her in, gentle-like." There was a spattering sound of soil growing heavier. Acton tucked his head against his knees. "Who does have a drop for the beast, to see her on her way to the goddess? Here." Liquid splattered against the earth. Acton took the arrow in his hands and clenched them tight around it, then stood up and looked. Jin was a mound. The edges of the turves they'd laid over the grave hardly showed. "Now, Acton Manstow," said Da Palfreyman, "and you all, do you get on home." Acton walked along the road, alone, the whole of the village still standing there about his post. He walked into the shadows of the plane trees that grew on the bend of the road, and out of them again into Kayforl's high street. He walked, and he thought. He thought of Corban Farmer as a child. He thought of the war that had taken his father, Corban's son's, Cam Attling's right arm. He thought of Isla Caros and Minute, of Corban Farmer's man, and of the talk of fetching the new lord to this. He was past the village proper. He thought of Gin and turned his face for home. But his feet had their own ideas and took him back through the village, back up the ridge road. No, he bid them, but they were deaf, and they walked him past the gatepost. Gin, he bowed to her, the grave, and down the track to Corban Farmer's house, the lamps shining gold through the empty windows and lighting the night. All right, I hope you enjoyed The Returning so far. If you'd like to check this book out, we do not actually have it here in our collection, but we could get it for you through interlibrary loan, which is borrowing books from other libraries. If you didn't know, that's a free service that we can do for all our patrons if you would like a book that we don't have here. So if you'd like to finish up the story, just let us know and we can look for this at other libraries for you. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for more Teen Story Share with a brand new book. Have a good weekend. Bye.